Right, we have here the starter switch for the Rover 12. That's this one. It's, as you can see, the wee little button there has disappeared. Not quite sure where it's gone to, but it is gone. This is a spare one I bought off eBay or such, with a second one which is a load of components. So to get the Rover one to work again, first of all I have to find a way of getting rid of the glue somebody at some point in time has used to glue the front dial onto the back, which I think is meant to be just clipped in, but anyway, it isn't, it hasn't, it wasn't, so we're gonna have to figure out how to do that. This one I've taken apart before just to see how it all works on the inside rather than work on the car one first without having a clue what's happening. Anyway, it's reasonably straightforward. As I say, these are the bits that are in here. The only bit missing here is a spring that goes underneath this little bit that goes into the ignition switch. These are also, this one's broken anyway. This little square jobby is meant to have a sort of keyway on it, which has gone missing. I assume that's why it was thrown out, but it's good enough for my purpose, so I know what I'm actually trying to do here. Yes, so I'll take the other one apart. I'll show the bits how they're together in that. Now, in order to take these switches apart, this particular model has 3 indentations in the black, which I assume is Bakelite backing. So you need to bend those bits outwards or level in order to get the blessed thing apart. And here we have the inside bits. Here's your wee spring. So here you have your button jobby that goes over your keyway to tidy things up. That is your keyway to select the different positions of the key to start, auto or off. Here is your little on-off button, your starter button, which basically is just held on. There's no, this one has a spring on the inside underneath. No, this one doesn't have the spring, the other one does. So you then have these 3 bits with the keyway. This one has the contact point, so you can select this one. This is your, if you look on the back side, I don't know if it's, yeah, you can see it. It's upside down, so there we go. So you've got hand, coil, which is the one you always want to connect to, auto, and A. I assume A is the one that goes to the starter. Auto is what livens up the coil. So you want to bridge these 2 on here, which is, this is your coil, the long continuous one, that's your coil. And here you have your auto, and then you have a point for your starter. Now these 3 little dots, they fall into place There's only one way they really fit, that it goes to either one on the coil. So it goes from that one on the coil, say, to that one on auto, or to this one on the coil, to the starter. So that's just a case of getting it in the right position. You then have your slotted pin with this, oops, with a little square head that goes into these three components. Again, there's no spring involved or anything as far as I can see. I put a little washer in there just to tidy it all up. So yes, there's not a heck of a lot to it, but as per usual, there's probably an awful lot that can go wrong, or if you don't have the parts, you also will struggle like fury to find the parts. Anyway, so that is the basics of that. I will have a go with some acetone to see if I can undo the glue on this one, the one that I actually want to fix. Yeah, you can see it there. It's all been glued at some time in the distant past. Again, it's got the same markings on the back, and auto, mode and coil. Now the mode one, the middle one, I assume is for something Rover specific. I'll have to look at the wiring, because it wasn't connected when I took it off the car. The only ones that connected were the coil, the auto and A. So we shall see how we get on taking this blighter apart. I will report back and then put them next to each other to see what the differences are. Because this one actually has a proper key that slots into that. This little blighter, well, it might be a key, but it looks more like a screwdriver. It's basically just a very basic slot key that goes into that. Anyway, we shall see what it all brings. I'll report back. Well, one thing has been cleaned from something. There was this middle one that I didn't know what it was for. I thought it was Rover specific. Well, it's actually this ignition switch specific. There's a double nut on that pin, and it's actually connected to the lock. There you go. I was struggling to pull the blighter apart. I'm fairly sure it's never been pulled apart, this. If it has, it's a very, 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 very long time ago. Because the glue is, yeah, quite entertaining. Anyway, I think I managed to get most of it off. But in order to rotate this top off, you need to get the ignition lock barrel out of the way. Anyway, hopefully that'll work without all sorts of bits going between everywhere. So we shall see what it all brings next. Anyway, glad I found that little bit out rather than use brute force and ignorance. As I thought, it is indeed how it comes apart. Well, the barrel out of it at any rate. So that's your barrel lock. Now there's a flat side on the barrel, and that fits in on the inside of that. So that is quite important, because that is actually the bit that allows you to go to ignition on or onto the auto start. The auto start has to do with the Startix system. Basically, if you're freewheeling down the road and the engine's set very lean, when you're freewheeling, the engine revs go back to stationary. So when the engine's set very lean, it might well conk out halfway down a hill, but you would not necessarily hear that because the engine is so quiet. It's remarkable. So it then has the auto system. So if it does conk out, it automatically restarts after a few seconds, and it keeps restarting it every 5-10 seconds, however long it is. That's never really worked on this car. There's a lot of people don't like the auto system because if you were to have a crash, the engine would keep on trying to restart itself, with all happens that happen then. Anyway, so yes, we will see whether we can get the blighter apart now without things going everywhere. Well, we've got it apart. It did go twang in the end. Well, there's only these few bits on the inside. This lot is to do with the start button, which I'm trying to figure out how that is put together. Anyway, so this little jobby seems to go on there in the right position, otherwise the key is upside down. That one slots in there, and that one goes on top of that, which then again in the right position to get the contacts to go in the right place. The two on the right hand side, that's your coil. One's your auto, one's your hand. The start button bridges these two, which is your A and your auto, I think. Yeah. Auto. Oh, A and coil. And then the triangular jobby selects whether it's... Anyway, it all makes sense sometime. Anyway, so there's that bit that bridges here, which I'm fairly sure is this little bit, which I got given with the defunct switch. And also this little tip here, which very neatly fits into here, but as per usual, it doesn't make sense that you push it in from the outside. To me it doesn't make sense then, you know, because yeah, you could put a spring on the bottom side, but there has to be some sort of way of securing, making sure that the spring, which sits, funnily enough, in between these two jobs, if there is a spring, which you just have to have, otherwise it doesn't. I can't see how it otherwise would work. But there's some solder on the bottom of that pin, which I didn't put there. So again, it may be that somebody has faffed around with this at some point in time, because there is actually some breakage here on the rim, and I didn't do that, honest. Also it's got some tabs. Well, should have some tabs. There's one tab left. The other two have been snapped off. Again, wasn't me, Your Honor. So yes, we will investigate how this start button jobby works and what's a sensible way of solving that. I will report back. Houston, we have ignition. Press the button, and there she is. Pleased with that. what I ended up doing was I soldered a bit of copper onto the on-off button, or the starter button, so nothing destructive. The difference in design is that this one has a little spring in it to push it back. All the other ones I've taken apart have a little metal plate on the inside here that you push down, which is far easier, unless of course the metal plate breaks, but you can't have it all. Right, so that bit works. The next thing is to clean up all the parts that go on the inside here, the wee triangular jobby. Make sure all contacts are clean. Then get it all back together again and make sure that it works, and then we have to glue this top back on again, because as I said, a few of the lips have gone missing in the intervening year. So yes, I don't know, quite pleased so far. Well, it's back together again. All functions seem to be working, which I'm quite pleased about. When the key is in the off position, everything is off. When the key goes to the auto position, there's a closed circuit between auto and the coil, allowing the auto start function to work and restart the engine in case of a shutdown. When the key is pointed to the hand position on the left, there's a closed circuit from the coil to the A pole. The engine can now be started by pressing the starter button to close the circuit and activate the starter mode. The engine will keep on running until the key is turned to the off position, or you run out of fuel or something breaks. Quite pleased. Managed to get this done. I think this classifies as a repair rather than a renewal. The little button goes in quite well, comes back up quite well. Barrel lock works. What I need to do is put a bit of glue in a couple of places here to hold this down, although there is, with that bolt on the back, the barrel lock actually holds the top in, but I'll put a drop of glue on it anyway, don't want to lose it. So yes, quite pleased. All we'll have to do is figure out which wiring goes where. Anyway, we'll do that. Here's the start switch installed back into the dashboard, and then the rest of the car all wired in. Everything works hunky-dory. So if we put it to hand and then press the fire up button, everything works. So that concludes one now fixed starter button. Not that difficult, a bit fiddly, but yeah, can all be done.